5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Culture Clash.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of Culture Clash Live here on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. Of course, this is an exciting time for Culture Clash as we are live and discussing MandoWatch 2023, covering everything that is Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Now, got a little something different for you this special episode here. As you can see, we are going to be covering The Mandalorian with MandoWatch, but Kevin has been off on a special assignment. And so I reached out to all the things out there, but I know we were talking Star Wars. And if we're going to talk Star Wars on the Fandom Podcast Network, there's really only one choice, and that is to have What a Piece of Junk join us. So I reached out to Captain Scott Botman. He helped me out, and then I found out what he really did was he sent me a Wookiee. But not just any Wookiee, Nathan Miracle, Dave Flacloni, the Gooey Chewy. How are you, sir? And welcome to the Culture Clash.
I am doing great. I got my Wookiee cookies. They had the Imperial stamp on them and everything. The yellow ones, not the gross red ones. So everything's good. I'm really excited to talk about The Mandalorian and the great episode we had this week. We had a great episode of Bad Batch as well. It was a good week for Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars has definitely been on a roll, shall we say, lately. And of course, we've got to recognize all of our wonderful people out in the chat. The Freak 210, thank you for joining us. Kevin is on a special assignment, aka WonderCon. He might even have his chuckles going on. I don't know, but I'm getting something from the feed. It looks like it's strictly maybe an audio thing. We're gonna try to bring this in. Are you there, Mr. Reitzel? Are you there, Mr. Reitzel? It looks like we're having. Are you there, Mr. Reitzel?
Yeah, my connection's pretty bad because I'm in hotel Wi-Fi. I apologize.
I told you not to stay in the Cobra Law Hotel.
Tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and head back out, see if I can get back in, guys. Continue without me.
Okay. Kevin is trying to get himself squared away there, but Nathan, we are here to talk everything that is the Mandalorian. It's exciting, it's fun, but before we go any further, I have to do this. Spoiler alert, we are going to be diving deep into the latest episode of The Mandalorian, Chapter 20, The Foundling. We're going to hit everything on it. So if you haven't watched it yet, F1, what's wrong with you? 2, go watch it, come back, join us live, give us your thoughts in the chat, or watch us on our YouTube channel, Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube, or we might even be live streaming on Facebook and Twitter too. Check those accounts out as well, because we're kind of everywhere. But yes, The Mandalorian is here. Chapter 20, The Foundling. Another fantastic episode of The Mandalorian, Nathan. I got to ask you, since it's your first time here on the Culture Clash and the first time talking about Mandalorian with us, what have your thoughts been up to Chapter 4 of The Mandalorian for this season so far? Obviously, people who listen to What a Piece of Junk can hear them, but share with us for our Cultural Clash viewers and listeners out there.
Well, I've really been enjoying this season. It has a little bit of a different feel than the previous 2 seasons. And I think that has to do with the fact that it's more of a continuous story in this season. Whereas in previous seasons, there was a lot of, okay, the next episode is up and, side quest. Mandalorian got somewhere. They need me to do this before they'll fix my ship. Or, whoops, my ship crash landed somewhere. And it was almost episodic, but there was still a story going on. Whereas this season is more, there is a story, less episodic. And I've been enjoying that. I like both setups, but it is a nice change of pace from the previous 2 seasons.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. I think Kevin's hooked up with Breaker from G.I. Joe. I think he might have a little better signal now, so let's check it out. Kevin, are you with us?
Hey, I am. We'll see how long this lasts. Hotel Wi-Fi isn't always reliable, but good to see you guys. Live from Anaheim at the Convention Center for WonderCon.
It's those televipers. They're messing with you, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I'll get Major Blood on it tomorrow.
Oh, just remember that blood doesn't wash out too well. You know, you don't have the right stuff, but yeah. Okay, yeah. So let's just mention this real quick. Next week on Culture Clash, we will be talking heavily about John Wick 4. I'm just going to put it out there now. I will have seen it by then. Kevin, of course, suited up for Wick last night and saw it were you in LA and saw John Wick?
No, I was at my hometown of Santa Barbara. I was at the theater that I first saw Star Wars back in 1977. And the last time I saw a John Wick film was in Georgia. But I've been suiting up for it ever since Chapter 2 came out.
So without going into spoiler details, you and I will talk about this on the next Culture Clash once I've had a chance to see it. But initial thumbs up, thumbs in the middle. Is it everything we expect from John Wick and Chad Stahelski and Keanu?
It's a master class of action ballet like you've never seen before. Some great new characters as well. It dives even deeper into the world of the high table and the all the assassins and such, but it really is Donnie Yen's movie outside of Keanu Reeves. Donnie Yen a huge role in it, and he is fantastic. And it's some of his best work, and his martial arts is on par. And the cast is great. It's great.
That is awesome to hear. Obviously, a little bit of a heavy heart watching John Wick with the recent passing of Lance Reddick, which we talked about last week with the great John Mosby. But go see this as a tribute to everything that is great about John Wick and to Lance Reddick. I'm excited for this movie, Kevin.
I just wanted to mention real quick, they did a great job of utilizing locations, specifically in Germany, but more famously in Paris, in and around Paris, places I've been to, and the fights that they use, they did a great job utilizing locations and stuff like that. So check it out.
Are you wearing pants, Kevin? Obviously, we can't find out that answer. He just froze up.
I think the automatic sensor may have popped up there.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, it is time to talk The Mandalorian. And, of course, we are talking about the most recent episode of The Mandalorian, which is, of course, Chapter 20, The Foundling. Now, before we talk this, though, Kevin, and since we have you here, let's talk about this. This is something you have been doing since The Mandalorian has started. This is your non-spoiler, but movie-related posters to each episode of The Mandalorian. Some are obvious, but Kevin, there's a couple I got to ask you about here. Because I think
of course.
Getting some... Okay, gotcha. Obviously, I'm assuming reference to the darts.
Yes, the paintball. That was a movie about guys that play paint in college, and they actually get involved with a real espionage type of situation.
Mm-hmm. That's my boy. Obviously, the father-son storyline that's running through this episode of The Mandalorian. Cliffhanger. Yep. I think that's self-explanatory. I suggested the Vertical Limit poster, but you can go either way. There. Dinosaurs.
You gotta throw in Stallone.
Yeah, if you can throw in Stallone, you can throw in Stallone. Kevin, you're not the mama, but you included dinosaurs.
I did. And when I saw those little birds, I was like, oh, not the mama.
Wait. What little birds did you see?
Exactly.
Even those babies, they can eat a person.
Obviously the Dragon Slayer reference, we were all jumping on that one right away with you.
Yeah,
trying to help you.
I gotta get to Derek Marsh. He gave me that idea. I was thinking of Regain. I like Dragon Slayer better.
Yeah. Jurassic World, I know where you got that one from. There was a little scene at the end that was very reminiscent of some things in Jurassic World. Indiana Jones with Last Crusade with the sidecar, again, that's referenced. But Kevin, I gotta ask you, Austin Powers. This was the one that was getting you some questions from the rest of the FPNet crew.
Yeah, I was, so when I'm trying to figure out which posters to use, I automatically went to Jar Jar posters, like Misa back, and then I realized, wait a minute, this is non-Star Wars TV movie posters. So I'm trying to find posters that said I'm back. Hence, Ahmed Best, he's back. So I either was that or Terminator 2, I'm back. I decided to go with Austin Powers. That's a reach, but it gives you the feeling.
I'm a little surprised that you didn't go for Legends of the Hidden Temple, considering Kelleran Beck is the host of a show that is very much set up like that. And also, that was set during the Clone War period, and the temple itself was voiced by none other than D. Bradley Baker, voice of the clones.
But it's a Star Wars poster, and I do non-Star Wars related posters to.
Yeah.
But Legends of the Hidden Temple is not Star Wars.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I didn't think you should have even mentioned that. I would have put it up.
Well, I waited till now so that I could tell you on the show.
Yeah. Typical Wookiee move. I'm just saying, if I'm not careful, my arm.
Apologize.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I got bad leg. Guys. I don't know. I might keep you guys going, but I just wanted to drop in and say hi. I'll let you get back to your thing. I just want to mention, love this episode. It was awesome. I watched it 4 times.
There you go. And we will get not only a John Wick conversation going next week, but we'll get a full report from WonderCon as Kevin is on his G.I. Joe special.
Yes.
So thank you.
All right, guys. I'll see you later.
Kevin. We'll see you for next episode. Well, as we can see, Kevin is going to be popping out with the Mandalorian here. So we will see you later. And so with that, let's get on to a special episode of The Mandalorian directed by none other than one Grief Karga.
Very nice.
We're talking about Mr. Carl Weathers. But guys, let's talk some Mandalorian. Okay, so we are talking season 3, episode 4, chapter 20, The Foundling. And let's give you a brief rundown of what happens in this episode. Din Djarin introduces Grogu to Mandalorian combat training. Grogu wins a training match, but his opponent, Rangar Vizsla, is captured by a large Shriek Hawk. Bo-Katan gathers a hunting party, which includes Din Djarin and Ragnar's father, Paz Vizsla, and sends them to the Shriek Hawk's nest. The armor forges a new piece of Mandalorian armor for Grogu, a rondelle bearing Din Djarin's Mudhorn sigil. As she works, Grogu has visions of his rescue from the burning Jedi Temple by Jedi Master Kelleran Beck and sympathetic members of the Naboo armed forces. Vizsla's overeagerness to save Ragnar disrupts Bo-Katan's plan and leads to a difficult aerial rescue in which Bo-Katan and Din Djarin rescue the boy unharmed, killing the Shriek Hawk by causing it to fall into the range of a dinosaur turtle, collecting its chicks to be raised and earning the clan's respect. As the armor replaces Bo-Katan's pauldron lost in the scuffle with the Petrosaur, Bo-Katan reveals her encounter with the Mythosaur, but the armorer meets her account with indifferent disbelief. So, Nathan, first reactions to this episode. What had your jaw on the floor with this week's episode of The Mandalorian?
The thing that surprised me the most was Grogu actually, fighting in the training. We know that he can understand people and he's been responsive to people, but I think this is the first time we've really seen him take instruction and do something because Din told him, this is what you need to do. This is how you fire this thing. And he understood, this is how I fire darts. So I think that was, to me, the biggest thing, despite the fact that we had pretty much a dinosaur or a dragon, a wyvern of sorts. Grogu. You might notice that I like Grogu.
Yeah. We noticed you have proper Mandalorian attire. I am drinking my Klingon red bloodline in my Grogu cup because that's just how we roll around here. But my first reactions to the episode 2, I thought this was a very, very fun episode of the Mandalorian. I gotta throw this out by the freak. He wants to talk about Kev now that he's gone. So please feel free. Tell us your Kevin Reitzel stories. We will use them in a later podcast to see how red we can make him. But we'll have a little fun with that. But this episode was fun. It was definitely a major change of pace from last week's Mandalorian episode of the Mandalorian.
Yeah, with the spycraft, and
yeah.
yet we got to one of the same locations. But I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yes, we will. But just a very fun episode. Some great moments with Grogu. The thing with the darts, I got a good chuckle out of, because if you've ever been to Disney, they sell a like Boba Fett Nerf set, and it's those darts. You can wear it on a glove and shoot those darts at. So I got a kick out of that. I think the what they're doing, some of the stuff they're playing off with Bo-Katan right now is incredibly fascinating. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But overall, I just think a very fun episode. Some major surprises in this episode, and some reveals I wasn't necessarily expecting to happen in this episode, particularly with how Grogu was saved, Nathan. I didn't think we were going to get that for a while.
Yeah. Well, we knew it was coming sometime in the season, and there's not that many episodes left when you get down to it. But yeah, I can't say that I had it on my bingo card for this particular week.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be something that was going to be a bigger. I'm not saying it's not a big deal, but I thought it would be a bigger deal in a bigger moment. So, but I also think it was fascinating because I think they're using it to try to mature Grogu a little bit. See Grogu kind of growing up some too. I mean, he's still,
definitely, yeah.
He's still the playful little Grogu that he is, but you've seen it a little bit, and I think you're seeing it more, especially as he's adopting the ways of the Mandalorian. As of now, you're seeing Grogu starting to grow up a little bit, and I think that's going to be an interesting thing that's going to play out through the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that we're done with seeing flashbacks of Grogu's time on Coruscant.
No, I don't. Not only that, I don't think we were done seeing flashbacks of what happened to Grogu in his time from escaping Coruscant to ending up being Moff Gideon's prisoner as well. I think that's going to be
I'd
we're
like
going to kind of learn more about this season.
I'd like to know what happens with Keller and Beck too. Like, does he meet his end? Because I mean, clearly he's not still with Grogu, so something had to happen.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I want to talk about the cast in this episode a little bit, and we haven't really talked since you haven't been on. How are you feeling about the cast of The Mandalorian this season? One of the things Kevin and I have both brought up in previous episodes, it's nice to see getting both Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder getting more recognition in the credits, and a lot of people giving them more recognition for their part in the development of The Mandalorian.
So I'm very much the type of person who doesn't care as much about the actors and actresses. I know way more about voice acting than I do actual acting. So you can throw a bunch of names at me and I will recognize some of them.
Yeah, well, obviously Brendan Wayne kind of doing more of the normal scenes in the Mandalorian outfit, while Lateef Crowder is doing more of the action and fight scenes as well. So,
I'll say it this way. I have not sat there and thought, man, these are different people underneath that mask. Yeah. So they're doing their job. I like to get immersed in the story and not care so much about the production details.
Understood. And I can definitely get behind you on that. But we also got a little bit of Mandalorian trivia for you. So during the training fight scene at the start of the episode, the losing combatant is heard to shout "sufficient" when conceding. This is the traditional way of submitting in the English martial art of shin kicking, a combat sport that is hundreds of years old and was a mainstay of the Olympic Games held in England from 1612 to 1853. It is still practiced today, particularly in Cornwall, although wooden clogs and steel-toed shoes are no longer allowed to be worn due to the severe injuries suffered. You think, Nathan?
I mean, I would think so. The thing that actually surprises me the most there is I didn't know that there were Olympic Games played between those dates. The modern Olympics started in 1896, were the first ones. They got the committee together in 1894 to get it prepared for 1896, and since then we've had the modern Olympic Games. And I knew that we had the ancient Greek Olympic Games, but I didn't know that we had Olympic Games in between. So I'm going to have to go find footage of those.
I'm just thinking to myself as I'm reading this shin kicking. So is this new modern thing that I've seen out on YouTube and a few things? Is this like this slapping contest? Is this like the new version of it? Because it doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, I don't enjoy those videos.
Yeah, I've seen a few, and it's like, yeah, no, I'm good. But moving on, another piece of trivia: the shipmaster Kellenbreck and Grogu used to flee Coruscant is an H-type Nubian yacht featured in Star Wars Episode 2: Attack of the Clones. It is originally assigned to the royal family of Naboo, but given to Senator Padme Amidala after she lost her ship during an assassination attempt on Coruscant. Padme and Anakin used the ship to fly to Geonosis. I guess got to say the Mandalorian has been a great product for the sales of Naboo starships. I'm just saying it really helped bring back Naboo starships.
Yeah, at this point, Watto probably would pay Republic credits for him. You know,
Yeah.
he'd scrounge up Republic credits just to buy one.
Would they be Old Republic or New Republic credits? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Watto doesn't care.
Yeah,
as long as you accept the money, he doesn't care. Now, he won't accept your money if he doesn't think it's good enough. But that's a whole different thing.
I'm getting confused now. So moving on, when Master Kelleran and Grogu are fleeing from the clone troopers, he takes the swoop bike through Monument Plaza and bumps into the peak of Umate, the tallest mountain on Coruscant, the same one Elia Kane tricks Dr. Pershing into trying to touch in last episode, the Convert.
Yeah, we haven't seen that location since last week. But
at least consistency.
But on last week's What a Piece of Junk, we did talk about the fact that that location has shown up in the Clone Wars. So we have seen it in animation, but last week was the first time that we saw it in live action. It's also been in some of the Old Republic stories.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm liking the consistency aspect of it, that they're revisiting some of these little things and having some fun with that. But you know what, guys, we're going to dive into kind of our main topics of this episode of The Mandalorian. And topic number one is our casting and special guest, the return of Ahmed Best to Star Wars, playing Kelleran Beck. Nathan, I see all across the internet the memes. Oh, this was the best casting ever. A lot of people, I think, pleasantly surprised to see this. What did you think of this casting?
So, if this is the best casting ever, are you saying it would take a miracle for me to get cast?
No, a miracle would have happened for you to get cast, apparently.
Yeah, well, I was very excited. I heard the name and I saw it on the closed caption, and I thought, I know that name from somewhere, but I can't quite place it. And I didn't think of it until the door opened and I saw him. I thought, oh my gosh, this is Jar Jar Binks. So, yeah, I got real excited watching that. He got a lot of flack, might be the best way to put it. Grief, maybe. A lot of people hated on him when the prequels were in production and in theaters, because a lot of people couldn't separate the actor from the character. And Jar Jar is not exactly the most well-received character in the prequels.
What Ahmad had went through after the prequels was not human.
It was not right.
It was not right. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in fandom is that these are actors. They're human beings. They're not the characters that they portray. And I think sometimes as fans, we get so lost in those characters that we don't really get to see. We can't see the forest from the trees in an aspect here. And he didn't write. He didn't character. He played the role as it was given to him. And you know what? I know he's been through some personal hell over the last years, and it's so good to see him come back and be in such a cool role and such a cool character, and a character with obviously a ton of importance because he is the man who rescued Grogu.
Yeah, and there's been so much speculation on who rescued Grogu. How did Grogu get out of the temple? Was it that Grogu apologized to Anakin and said, "I'm sorry they didn't make you a master"? So Anakin was like, "I won't kill you today." Did somebody else find him and take him? Well, it turns out it was Ahmed Best himself, Kelleran Beck. So this is actually the second non-animated character that Ahmed Best has played in the Star Wars universe. he had a small cameo in Attack of the Clones, which he cameoed in a movie that he also starred in. But this character was named Ahmed Beck. So obviously a play on his own name there. But we see him in the cantina or the bar, whatever you want to call it, when Obi-Wan is chasing the shapeshifter right at the beginning.
Oh, okay. Now I'm going to have to
Sam
go back
Wessel.
and rewatch that. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's a blink and you miss it thing. He's just part of the crowd, but the character has a name because this is Star Wars, and we name everybody who appeared on screen for at least a fraction of a second.
That's the rule. That's
or
in the
less.
concept. It's in the Star Wars Bible. So there we go. Interesting backstory about this character of Kellerman Breck, because he actually originated on the web series Star Wars Jedi Temple Challenge, a children's game show where contestants completed obstacle courses to become Jedi Knights. Best is known for obviously playing Jar Jar in the prequel movies, and we've talked about what he's been through, but how very cool of it to take something obscure like that from a web series. And this is something that I think Filoni and Favreau have done so well, Nathan, is that they find the little things in Star Wars and the most obscure things and find a way to add them into the Mandalorian. And I think it's one of the most fun aspects of the Mandalorian. It's something that I always look for every week.
Absolutely. And this is not the first time they've done something like that. One of my favorite parts of the first season, towards the end, when the stormtroopers come in, they get brought in on a life-size version of a toy, an old toy that you could put stormtroopers in. So yeah, they're great at doing stuff like that, pulling small things from long time ago in that case. Not quite so long ago for this particular series. There's only one season, but that's mainly because of COVID. That season was done just before COVID, and then they had to kind of shut down production for that. My understanding is Ahmed Best has said that he's willing to come back and do more seasons if they can get production up and running again. So I don't think that show is necessarily over. And with him showing up in this episode of The Mandalorian and the great reception he's gotten with that, I think there's a good chance that they'll restart that series.
That would be cool. I would like to see that. Nobody deserves it more than Ahmed Best. Yeah. And hopefully we're going to see a lot more of him before this season of the Mando is over, because I think there's more of his story to definitely be told.
Yeah. And I will say, if you're interested in going out and finding that, you can find that series on YouTube, but I will warn you, it is most definitely for kids.
I think I've seen an episode or two. It is definitely a children's show.
Yeah.
But speaking of children, let's talk about topic 2: Grogu Foundling to Apprentice. We talked about this a little bit earlier, Nathan, how they kind of use some things in this episode to kind of help give Grogu a little growth in this episode. What did you think about how things were handled with Grogu in this episode, where we still see him kind of, early on being playful, and he does the training, the Mandalorian training, and then he has that pretty heavy emotional scene for him with the armor as she's founding his piece of Mandalorian armor, and you see how the expression on his face changes from almost fear to like getting a little confidence. It felt like, the way I interpreted it, at any rate, is like he was getting over the trauma of the events at the Jedi Temple while having this piece of armor forged for him.
You might say that he was unlearning what he had learned.
Yeah, there you go. Extra points for Mr. Miracle today.
Yeah, so he's obviously kind of combining some of his Jedi knowledge with how Mandalorians operate. Way of the Rising Phoenix. He doesn't need a jetpack. He'll just flip over people using the Force to do that. Oh, I loved this artwork at the end with Grogu.
Oh, it was amazing.
Terrorizing these crabs. I thought for sure when he picked one up that he was going to eat that.
I think that was his goal. I really do think that was his goal. And I actually kind of like the inside joke where we all thought he was using the Force to move the stones, and it turns out it's the crabs. So,
yes, yeah. That was really cool. One thing that, I said that I like the story more than getting into the production side of it, but when he grabbed one of those and picked them up, I was trying to figure out how exactly they did that, because I know, like with the Muppets, like the original Muppet Show, if the Muppets had to pick something up, they often had to like freeze, like cut right here, and then swap in a version of the Muppet that had the phone or whatever they picked up attached to its hand. So I was trying to figure out, what they had done in terms of practical effects there, and I have no idea.
Yeah. That's one thing the Mandalorian does very well, is those visual effects, and they are spectacular. But Nathan, we have one more topic I want to get into, and that is the person who I think is kind of stealing this season of the Mandalorian, and that is Miss Bo-Katan herself. And mainly is, Bo-Katan, what are you up to? Because she is working some angles right now, Nathan.
Is she?
Yeah, I think she's working a few. Yeah,
I think she's trying to figure out what she wants to do. I don't think that she quite knows. And this is something else that I really love about Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. They love to make their titles apply in many, many different ways. So the title of this episode, The Foundling, it could apply to Bo-Katan, because she definitely was not part of this group beforehand. And she's kind of finding her way in this group. She's almost like a foundling here, in that she's learning, what do they mean when they say this is the way? Like, how do they eat? Something so basic as that. Is it okay to have a mythosaur on your pauldron? These are things that you would think she might know because she's a Mandalorian, but she's not a Mandalorian of this sect. So she's kind of a foundling there. But then the foundling can also apply to Grogu, who is a foundling but is becoming an apprentice. The foundling can also apply to 3 random birds that we found on the top of a cliff.
You mean these guys right here?
These guys right here, aren't they cute?
You and Mr. Reitzel can each take one home with you. We'll leave the other one for whoever. Maybe Scott would like one of these.
Yeah. Well, once they get them trained up, I would be disappointed if we don't see Din and or Grogu riding one of these things by the end of let's say the end of the series. I don't think it needs to be the end of the season, because they shouldn't grow that fast. But
yeah, no, I agree with you there. But I do want to ask you, because there's so much different things going on here. We have when the Armorer was talking with Grogu, but especially in Bo-Katan's story here, do you think she's trying to? We talked about. I just get the feeling like she's maybe trying to figure out how she can use all of this to her own advantage, in the aspect of, hey, I've got everything I need right in front of me. I've got the black saber. I've got this coven now that I can maybe, she's taking kind of a early leadership role here and really earning her way in. And then obviously the fact she hadn't mentioned the mythosaur to anybody until the end of the episode, to the Armorer of all people. And the Armorer is just kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah. You and your imagination go wild.
Now, I had a completely different take on that. I thought the Armorer just took it in stride and was like, yeah, I'm not surprised you saw a mythosaur down there. It's like, no big deal. I would say that you're lucky that you saw it, but I knew it was down there.
No, I think that's an interesting way to look at it too, and I hadn't really even thought of it that way. I mean, it just felt like it was kind of like, yep, nope. She was speaking in the hypotheticals and everything like that, not necessarily believing that she had. You saw mythosaur, okay, that kind of thing, but. You bring up some interesting points there, Nathan. So yeah, I can. That's I'm gonna have to rewatch the episode again and kind of re-listen to that, I think, and see if I can get the perspective that you're pulling in. But that is definitely an interesting perspective, my friend. So.
Yeah, and I'm mainly basing that on the very end, because like Bo-Katan says a couple of times, like, no, I really saw one, but at the end, the armor didn't react any different. But then again, the whole having the helmet on sometimes makes it really hard to gauge how somebody's actually reacting, which I think is actually part of the point of having the helmets. But yeah, it's hard to tell at the end. Is she surprised? Is she upset? Is she just taking it all in stride? Who knows? Well, the armorer knows, and hopefully next week we'll know too.
Yeah, it's going to get interesting. But I have a question for you, because this is something Kevin and I do with every episode of The Mandalorian we watch. The fun factor moment. What was the moment for you that you just had an absolute, just pure fun with this episode?
Well, I think the most fun moment has to be when Grogu jumps over the kid and jumps back and shoots him 3 times, and just all of a sudden, yep, he won. By the way, that lesson about not speaking up if you don't know what you're talking about, that was for you, because you didn't know what you're talking about. But another really fun moment for me, not in the sense of, oh, I'm laughing and having fun, but in a sense of, oh, I totally get that, was when Paz Vizsla said, "This is my son that we're going after. I'm charging in to this nest. Who cares that we haven't cleared it? I'm going in." I thought, yeah, that is a character acting as their character, not doing what the plot says you're supposed to do. So that moment was a great storytelling moment for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Obviously, for me, I think I'm with you, Nathan. The whole dart training sequence and that whole training sequence with Grogu was great. I love how they're questioning his size, and Arya, even Bo-Katan's like, "Are you sure he's old enough to be doing this?" And he's like, Denzel just like proud pop him. You just watch and see.
Yep.
I know
He's got. Trust me, he's got it.
It's all good. We're good there. This is the way. But no,
it makes me think that he's seen things that we haven't in between seasons.
I'm guessing probably too. There's probably some more there that's going on. Obviously, what I would really like to see in somewhere in these episodes is I would love a little training montage of the Shriek babies and how the Mandalorians are going to train them, because I think that could be high hilarity.
Yeah, that could be really good. I almost want that as not a plot, but just as we have conversations on the beach on this planet, in the background, there's a couple of Mandalorians going, don't eat me.
I'm going to say this right now. There ain't no way, I don't care how much Beskar armor I have on, I am not swimming in the watering holes of that planet.
Oh, goodness, no. No, you get swallowed alive by a dragon turtle. You get, I mean,
kicked out of the water.
We saw a helmet in the nest, so we know. Like, even if they hadn't told us, we knew they had eaten Mandalorians up there before. And you could also tell from the way that they talked about it, oh, don't shoot or they'll kill the thing, because that's what they did last time. It's like, how many times do you have to get attacked by a giant wyvern before you realize this is probably not the planet we should be hanging out on?
Yeah. No, well, it's either that or Tatooine. I don't know. Crate dragon, giant wyvern.
Nah, I think they're going back to Navarro.
Oh, that could be very true too. So,
and you know why?
Why is that?
Pirates. We still have a scene from the trailers that we have not seen in the episodes. There's a scene where a pirate somebody gets shot and falls down right in front of the Anzellan hole, and the Babu Frick character goes, "Yeah!" We haven't seen that yet, so we know that we're going back to Navarro at some point, and we know there's going to be a fight. And I would not be surprised if it's Mandalorians versus pirates on Navarro.
Okay, that's a very good point. By the way, high props for your Babu Frick accent. That brings me to a point. Let me ask you a question, because if you listen to What a Piece of Junk, we know what a huge fan you are of everything that Star Wars, and of course, your uncanny resemblance to Dave Filoni. We call you Dave Filoni for a reason, but I want to ask you about, since we're talking about pirates, and since it came up in episode 1 where we see these pirates for the first time, are you of the belief we are getting that much closer to seeing everybody's favorite pirate in live action?
Nope.
You think he's staying animated?
I think he is staying animated. I thought that we were going to see that I thought we were going to see him on Bad Batch. Turns out we did not.
I was thinking that too.
I was really hopeful and very disappointed the next episode when it wasn't Hondo, but No, I just don't think that that we're going to see him live action, and I don't think this group of pirates is at all related to him.
That's a good point.
We know that he kind of lost his pirate crew sometime between the Clone Wars and Rebels, so he'd have to be building back up. Now, that said, we do know that he's still alive and kicking because he is in Galaxy's Edge, which is set in the sequel trilogy time frame. So we know he's still out there. But we've gotten a few different batches of pirates, and I just don't think that we're going to get him live action.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I never thought we'd get Cad Bane in a live action either, but
that's true too. I did not think we were going to get a live action Cad Bane, so I could be wrong. One issue that I might have though with Hondo in live action is they probably still want to have him voiced by Jim Cummings.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, they can do that. They could have somebody else portray him and still have Jim do the voiceover. But it would be kind of an extra hurdle because I don't think Jim could really do the live action acting for it.
Yeah, that's oh yeah, without a doubt. You'd have to do something along the lines of what they kind of do with the Mandalorian himself, where Pedro comes and does the voiceover work after, unless it's a scene requiring him with the helmet off. But
right.
That is going to wrap up our talk on Mandalorian here. But you know what? Kevin is off on special missions, which means I'm in charge of the Culture Clash ship, which usually is the case anyway. But I have Nathan here, and Nathan and I have something else we're both big fans of in common, and it's a very special time for that particular thing because Nathan, we are about 1 week away from WrestleMania weekend,
from tax season. Oh.
Yeah, that's
sorry.
I got about 3 more weeks.
Something else that we had in common.
Yeah. We got about 3 more weeks of that. But I would be remiss if I didn't do a little bit of FPNet classic flashback and shout out, of course, the great Michael Morris, who would come on here, and he came up with the name when we would talk wrestling with him, Spot Monkey. So it is time for a Spot Monkey section here on Culture Clash because I want to talk a little professional wrestling with you while I have you here, Nathan, because WrestleMania starting last year went to a 2-night format all weekend long. It is continuing this year, but the WWE is in a much different place than it was at this time last year. Vince McMahon is really not calling the creative shots. He's around, but it seems like there's somebody else. Creative has been very different since McMahon, quote unquote, retired. There's a lot of questions about the future of the ownership of the WWE. But a lot of people are feeling that right now is some of the best creative the WWE has put out in years, particularly the storyline of the Bloodline with Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, and everything like that. And of course, now we have our main event. A lot of people thought maybe The Rock was coming back for the main event to face Roman Reigns. But the other option, and the one I think has been sitting there all along, is, of course, the son of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, challenging for the title with Roman Reigns on the second night of WrestleMania. I got to ask you, how have you felt about the Bloodline story? Because I really do think it's grown outside of the world of professional wrestling to kind of a streamlined mainline fandom thing. Because there's a lot of people I know of who kind of come back to wrestling because of what has been going on with this Bloodline storyline. Yeah. I really feel like they're going to use WrestleMania to kind of apex the Bloodline storyline and give us a little bit of a break and start something new after WrestleMania. But how have you felt about, let's say, the last 6 months of WWE?
Well, so here's the thing. Scott moved and he's further away from me now, and I can't go over to his house on Monday nights and watch Raw, which means I have watched a lot less wrestling in the last 6 months than I had in the years prior to that. So I'm a little out of touch, but that said, to your point about the Bloodline, transcending wrestling, I know all about the Bloodline. I don't have to been watching to know that the Bloodline is a thing and that they're in charge. Now, Sami Zayn, is he still part of that? Did he get kicked out? I saw that there was big controversy going on with him.
Yeah, Sami Zayn has left the Bloodline. He turned his back when they were beating down Kevin Owens so bad he couldn't take it in. He couldn't take seeing it anymore. Wouldn't hit Kevin Owens with a chair. So Sami Zayn was kicked out of the Bloodline. There's been a whole issue going on. Jey Uso walked away from the Bloodline. He's joined back. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have finally reunited, which is setting up a tag team title match at WrestleMania of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Sami Zayn is best when he's with Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens is best when he's with Sami Zayn. I mean, Kevin Owens is great by himself too. Don't get me wrong. He's one of my favorites. The heels that are the best are the ones that you enjoy hating. There's a difference between I hate this character because I don't want to watch when they're on the screen, and I hate this guy, but man, do I enjoy hating this guy. And Kevin Owens is really good at that second one. But of course, if he's going up against the Bloodline, he's probably face right now, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. And you know what? He's good at that too. He's good all the way around. There are some people who can do that. There's other people like The Miz. The Miz is a great heel.
Yeah.
The Miz is horrible as face.
Oh yeah, well, because he's so good at antagonizing the audience, and you just want to hate the guy anyway. So there you go. But
yeah, and he just leans right into that. But you know, I'm really excited. I do plan to get together with Scott and the gang on Sunday to watch the second night of WrestleMania, and I'm very glad that the Cody Rhodes match is going to be that night because that is the match that I am the most interested in. I love the American Dream. The American Nightmare. I love Goldust too, but I don't know that he'd show up. But
yeah, no, I think he's still under AEW contract. So
yeah, so that's not happening. But you know what? The whole Rhodes family is just stellar. So yeah, I'm very excited about that particular matchup. Now, I'm not going to see day one when it first airs because I'm going to watch Dungeons and Dragons. We've got a huge plan where we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons all day until about 9 o'clock. We're going to go see the movie.
Okay, we'll get to Dungeons and Dragons in a moment because I got a question for you about that because it's one I posed to Kevin too. But I want to just highlight a couple other things from WrestleMania and just get your thoughts just based on what your knowledge is. But it's a very interesting card. Obviously, we've got Cody and Roman. I think this is going to be the end of the Bloodline story, at least for a while. I think both the tag titles and Cody will change, and I think Cody will win the title at WrestleMania, barring something really major coming out of nowhere with WWE. We have Logan Paul, who's healthy and back. I can't stand him either, but I got to give the guy credit. He has been really good in the ring when I didn't think he would be. He is facing Seth Rollins. So I think if there's anybody who's going to make
Here's what I'm excited about with this matchup, and this is a terrible thing to be excited about. Seth Rollins is one of the most dangerous people in the ring, and I don't mean that he wins a lot of matches that he's scripted to win. I mean that a lot of the injuries that we've had over the past several years, Seth Rollins has been the one to cause those injuries to come about. I wouldn't mind Logan Paul just not being in wrestling for a while. I mean, I don't want him to be hurt, but I also don't want to see him anymore.
We have a very interesting intercontinental title matchup too. It's a triple threat match of Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. That's just going to be
that could be a good one. Yeah. Gosh, I don't even know who I'd root for in that. I kind of want to root for all of them.
Yeah. Here's my prediction. I think that they have bigger plans for Gunther, especially if Cody wins the title. I think that Gunther could be Cody's first opponent coming out of the gate of WrestleMania.
Okay.
I think we finally see Sheamus get his grand slam of winning all the titles. I think they were going to give him a WrestleMania moment. He's never been Intercontinental Champion. Drew McIntyre doesn't need the title. I think Sheamus gets it and finally gets that moment on the grandest stage of all and completes his collection of all WWE titles.
So I think you may be right about that. And here's part of my thinking. How much decision-making power does Triple H have? Because he and Sheamus are tight.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see Triple H saying, you know what, it's time. You can go ahead and do this. And if they do want Gunther to be Cody Rhodes' first opponent, being a triple threat match is a great way to have somebody not win, but still look really good.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
He could beat Drew McIntyre up, have Drew unconscious on the ground. All he's got to do is pin him. And then like Cody comes out and hits Gunter or something. For some reason, he can't get the pin, or even, he's taken Drew McIntyre out, but he sacrificed himself to do it, and they're both unconscious on the floor. And Sheamus just walks up and puts one hand on Drew, and now Gunter caused the situation where the match ended, but didn't get to win. So he looks strong and can say, hey, I didn't get pinned. I pretty much won that match. I deserve to go up against Cody Rhodes.
Yeah. I think that's a very good possibility. A couple of very interesting women's matches on the card too. You've got Bianca Belair defending the Raw Women's title against this new version of Asuka, who I absolutely love. I think Asuka's in the best shape she's been in a very long time. I love the new look. I don't see Bianca losing the title to Asuka, but I can see one hell of a match coming out of it.
That might be a dusty finish situation where they can both look strong coming out of it, because disqualification, title doesn't change. Bianca can retain, but lose the match through disqualification. That could definitely be a thing. I always got to root for Bianca because she is from Knoxville, Tennessee, and she loves the Tennessee Volunteers, and so do I. I only follow them in football. I have no idea what's going on in March Madness, but go Vols.
There you go. And of course, the other one is the rumor is it might be the main event of the Saturday night of WrestleMania, which is Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's title. A lot of people feel it's Ripley's time. Finally, she's just ascended the mountain. She has been probably the best part of the Judgment Day, which that's a whole other thing. But I really think this is the time where you need to put the belt on Rhea Ripley.
I mean, she's been my favorite female wrestler for quite some time at this point. She knocked Becky Lynch off of that podium there. Even though Charlotte is from Charlotte and that's where I live, I'm rooting for Rhea Ripley there.
Yeah. A couple other things I'll just hit real quick because you probably aren't aware of this. There's going to be a 6-woman tag team match with the current women's tag team champions that are Becky Lynch and Lita, joined by Trish Stratus, and they will face Damage Control.
Oh, yeah. I think they have the Legends win this.
Yeah, I think
because,
I agree.
Usually at WrestleMania, that's a good night for the faces.
Yeah.
Then every other night is a good night for the heels because, you want the faces chasing until you get to WrestleMania. And then that's kind of the culmination of, oh my goodness, yes, they finally got through to the top. I think Legends will win that.
Another interesting match because it's going to be I am a huge Finn Balor fan. I think I love him in the ring. I'm not really thrilled with the way it's gone with Judgment Day. I much prefer the solo Finn Balor, the Prince, whatever. But they have set up a Hell in a Cell match between Finn Balor and Edge. However, here's the kicker. For the first time ever, we will see the heel version of the Demon because Edge has called out the Demon, Finn Balor.
Good. That is something that I really want to see more of from Finn Balor is the Demon, having that other personality that comes out for the big special events. That's one of the most interesting things about him. So, yeah, I'm really glad that somebody's calling out the Demon and not Finn Balor.
Yeah, I think my only reservation about this is the Demon is so popular that to have it be a heel Finn Balor bringing out the Demon is going to be a little weird.
No. I think it's great. You can have popular heels. That's not a problem.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And then the other match that I'm going to guess will either be finally made official either on Raw or SmackDown this week, or maybe like night one of WrestleMania, it's made official and they actually have the match on night 2. Because it looks like they're going to finally culminate the Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio storyline that's been going on, where we all want to see Dominic Mysterio get his ass whipped by his dad.
Yes. And his mommy. I mean,
his actual mom.
No, I meant Rhea.
Yeah. Either way, but
she can turn on him.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting WrestleMania. I think it's going to set up a really interesting upcoming year for WWE because I think there's going to be a couple of big NXT call-ups right after Raw. I think there's some other things that are going to be happening in professional wrestling this year. You're going to see some people moving around from different places, and we might see some faces we haven't thought we'd ever see in WWE make an appearance in WWE before the year is out. So very interesting time of professional wrestling. But before we close out this episode,
I have to make a prediction, and I make this prediction at every single pay-per-view. I know they don't call them pay-per-view anymore, but there'll always be pay-per-views to me. Everyone, I always make the prediction that Sergeant Slaughter will show up. Does it ever happen? Absolutely not. But someday it will. And when it does, I'll be able to say I predicted that.
So there you go. Well,
mostly,
if they could ever get a good Lacey Evans storyline going, they could have had her at WrestleMania and had Sergeant Slaughter show up.
I'd like for him to be her manager.
Yeah, I think that would be a very cool. I think she could probably use it. Let's be honest.
Yeah, frankly.
Yeah. But as we close out on WrestleMania, you brought up something I'm going to ask you a question on. You brought up Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to be honest. I do not have high expectations for this film, but I think this is going to be an absolutely fun movie. And the reason why I think it's going to be an absolutely fun movie is I think Chris Pine is going to be so charismatic in this movie and so much fun and so likable that people are going to just enjoy this movie, because Chris Pine is one of our most, to me, he's one of the most charismatic, draw you in, and you're just going to watch something because it's Chris Pine being Chris Pine. And I really think that's going to be the case with this Dungeons and Dragons movie. Plus, I'm looking forward to, I've seen it on the internet, didn't mean to, but there's going to be a certain fun little cameo that they're going to have in this Dungeons and Dragons film that if you're a long time Dungeons and Dragons fan, you will know it when you see it, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I don't think I've seen this because I feel like if I had, I would know what you're talking about.
I will not spoil it live when we are off mic. If you want me to tell you, I will be glad to do so, but I don't want to spoil it for the listeners that are watching.
I'm assuming you're not talking about the Speak with Dead scene.
No, it's not the Speak with Dead scene.
Okay, because that scene is the scene that gives me high hopes for the film, because I could absolutely see that scene playing out at a table.
Well, yeah, I think this movie's going to be fun. Is it going to be a big, huge hit? I'm not. There's too many other things coming out around it, but I think it's going to be a fun movie. I think where it's going to really see its boom is when it hits the streaming market. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are going to end up waiting for the streaming for it to hit streaming, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was looking at how many movies I want to go see this year, and in a typical year, I might go see 3 or 4, usually just the Marvel ones. Mm-hmm. But this year, there's a ton of movies I want to see. I want to see the D&D movie. The Mario movie is coming out. I will probably dress up as Luigi for that. My 3 cosplays are Dave Filoni, which is pretty much just putting on a cowboy hat, Luigi, and Sergeant Slaughter.
That's awesome.
So, and then there's all sorts of DC movies coming out this year. Flashpoint, I'm excited about. I know there's a lot of controversy around Ezra Miller, but I'm pretending I don't know anything about him, and I'm just going to go enjoy the movie because Flashpoint is a really good storyline. There's
Michael Keaton. Come on, Michael Keaton is Batman. You got me right there.
And I've said this on What a Piece of Junk, even though it's not a Star Wars thing, but I'll tell you too. I am convinced that he is not Bruce Wayne.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I know where you're going. I'm not going to spoil it.
If you know the Flashpoint story, you know where I'm going.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going. And I'll be honest with you. All the test screenings of the Flash have been high up there. So I'm curious. I'm not a big Ezra Miller fan. I wasn't even before, but we'll see how it goes. I've not been a particular fan of his particular portrayal of Barry Allen. It feels more like a Wally West type to me than it does a Barry Allen. But,
I can see that.
But I agree with you. The other DC movies, I really feel they're not going to get a fair shake because of this current situation that's going on.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But I do plan to go see Blue Beetle because I love the lead who's playing Blue Beetle, and he's the kid from Cobra Kai, and I'm looking forward to that.
So this is the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle.
Ted
I do hope that Ted Kord is in it though.
Well, there's an actress in it, and maybe Susan Sarandon who's playing his wife, Ted Kord's wife, in this film.
Yeah. So the question is Ted Kord dead when the movie starts?
Yeah, that's the big question. I think Aquaman it is so on lame duck status right now
Yeah.
that I think that.
The, the first Aquaman movie was good. They just tried to cram too much stuff into it. It needed to be two different movies. Because the whole going around to the other cities and all the other Atlantean stuff, that could have been its own movie.
Yeah, exactly.
None of it
I
was
agree with that.
bad. There was just too much trying to go on at once.
Yeah, no, but I've said this to Kevin on other episodes of Culture Clash that this is the year we go back to the movies, and we start here very soon where there's almost a movie every week that I want to go. I mean, the month of June in itself between what will be not only Indiana Jones, you've got the new Pixar film.
About that one too.
You got a new Pixar film coming out into the theaters. You've got you were going to have the Marvels, but that's been pushed back till November. So,
I mean, that's still this year.
Yeah, it's still a big year. I cannot wait for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in May. I am very excited for that.
And I'm hoping that that's not the last Guardians of the Galaxy, because Guardians of the Galaxy is a team with rotating members.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it might be the last time we see these particular members, but we could see other Guardians.
I'm just going to say there's some of those Ravagers from the end from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 we could see pop up.
Oh, that scene with Stallone's character.
Yeah.
All of the characters in that scene were the original Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
Like that was the team.
Yeah. Oh, no, you don't have to tell me. I've always been a Guardians of the Galaxy fan. In fact, when the first film came out and people were going, what? I was like, if they do this, because I knew what they were which version of the Guardians they were basing it off of, which was the Abnett and Lanning run. And I'm like, if they do this right, this is going to be a lot of fun. And sure enough, they did. But Nathan, I want to thank you for joining me. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Last thing about the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now that they've got access to Fox, do you think that they might pull in Thing and or Agent Venom? I know Agent Venom would be Sony, but
I think you're not going to see anything with the Thing until Fantastic Four comes out. I'm just that's Fantastic Four is too important to the MCU, but
yeah, that's probably true. Although Thing has done time with Guardians of the Galaxy, so it would be cool. Maybe some future Guardians of the Galaxy after the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Well, again, Nathan, first of all, thank you for joining us on Culture Clash. Thank you for filling in for Kevin while he's out on special assignment. Of course, too, we have been talking about The Mandalorian, Chapter 20, The Foundling. It's been a lot of fun. Of course, we are the Fandom Podcast Network. You can find us in so many places. If you're watching us live, of course, on our YouTube channel, please give us a like, a subscribe, and a share. If you listen to our audio podcast, you can find those on fpnet.podbean.com or any of your major podcast catchers, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Of course, you can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook with our wonderful Facebook group. You can follow us on Twitter at FanPod Network or on Instagram at Fandom Podcast Network. We're everywhere. I can't keep track anymore. It's so much. And of course, Nathan, we can find you helping fly the Drunken Gungan over there with.
Yeah, they don't let me into the cockpit very often.
Yeah, you're probably the best pilot they have.
And yet they don't let me in the cockpit very often. I'm usually back where Lando keeps the capes.
Yeah. Well, it's only because Scott spills all that soda all over his chair, and it's sticky and fur and sticky. Gooey chewy. You don't want to be a gooey chewy.
No. Oh man, speaking of gooey, because for those who don't know, the way Gooey Chewy came about was it was Chewbacca founder. And it was supposed to be that I was a founder impersonating Chewbacca. So I won't go into too much detail, but watch this season of Picard, guys. It's been great.
Yeah, Picard season. I got to go watch that. It's been one of the best Star Trek things I've seen in a good while. Nathan, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Facebook under my real name, Nathan Miracle. I'm also on Instagram at Gooey Chewy, and theoretically Twitter, although I really haven't done anything with Twitter since the takeover. Yeah,
well, you and many others, but of course, I am Kyle. You can find me on Twitter at AKyleW or on Instagram at AKyleFandom. Of course, I'm floating all around the Fandom Podcast Network. whether it's Culture Clash, Union Federation, which we are covering all things the Orville and Star Trek right now, and it's been a lot of fun talking Picard with that great crew. We've got so many great shows here. Obviously, check out What a Piece of Junk. The guys are not only covering Mandalorian, but you guys are giving full coverage to Bad Batch. And when Bad Batch is over, I'm going to come on, and I'm out of and tax season is over. I'm going to come on because I want to have a conversation with you guys about Bad Batch season 2.
Yeah, it's been spotty. I'll say that. There have been episodes that we've come on and said that this was definitely an episode, and that's pretty much all we can say.
Let me just put it this way: as far as for my personal opinion, as far as season 2 goes so far, if you see that Crosshairs is in the episode, it's a must-watch episode.
Yes, yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, this last episode, I saw Crosshair on the preview card on Disney Plus. I'm like, yep, I'm going to like this episode, and I did.
Yep. So there you go. Kevin, you can find if you're at WonderCon in that area this weekend, look for him. He might be Major Blood. He might be another Joe member. He could be wearing his tactical suit. You never know with Kevin, but you can find him on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix. We have hoped you have enjoyed our fun little miracle edition of Culture Clash. It's a miracle we got through this, but because we had a miracle with us, we were able to. And we will be back next Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific to continue MandoWatch 2023. We'll be covering Chapter 21 of The Mandalorian. I'm hearing good things about this episode. There's some early buzz that things are looking good. Real quick, one last Star Wars thing before we get out of here. There's a lot. Damon Lindelof looks like he's out. Ryan Johnson looks like he's out. Will we see a Star Wars movie in our lifetime again?
In our lifetime? Yes. In this decade? Maybe.
Yeah. It's interesting times at Disney right now. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, Star Wars belongs on the big screen, so I'm really hoping they get their stuff together and get it back there. You know, if I had to make a prediction, a lot of the live action series, they're kind of circling around Thrawn, and what they might do is have all of those culminate in a live action movie.
Yeah, I would be down for that. I would love to see a certain former Jedi apprentice, now played by the wonderful Rosario Dawson, on the big screen as Ahsoka Tano.
I didn't know Rosario Dawson was playing Ezra.
Oh, there's that too. It's a double duty thing, you know. Cool, but God, girl's got to eat. She's got pulling the double duty paycheck, right? With that, we better get out of here. So, as always, here at the Culture Clash, remember, respect each other, and most importantly, enjoy your fandom. Thank you all for listening. Until next week, have a great time.